you're gonna put your phone down.
Yes, I am. Anyways,
We're on the this is award. If there are awards for radio, and obviously there aren't any awards for radio, otherwise we'd have them. We would be winning them.
yes.
Yeah.
All we need is the rubber chicken noise. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about something that has affected all expats or foreigners living overseas. We're going to talk about apartment situations.
I wonder if we're not force feeding this expat bit a bit too much of the show. Like I wonder. Like we always, it's a nice place to start.
Okay.
But then we do quickly tend to get away from it.
Yes, we do. So let's try to drag it back into that theme.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. Why not? Go ahead. All right. So what about this apartment situation?
Well, foreigners overseas have a very high tolerance for low standard apartments. For example, we all have our horror stories of apartments living overseas. For example, you want to share yours there, Michael?
No, my apartments were all right. Which one are you referring to? The one in Konya?
The one in Konya and the one where you nearly froze to death.
Well, the one where I nearly froze to death was not my apartment, but my better half's apartment. And if she can survive for 3 years without heating, I almost died from pneumonia.
So you couldn't survive that?
Well, I survived. I didn't die. I almost passed out on the Metro bus.
Yeah.
And for people who don't live in Istanbul, Metro bus is not a place to pass out. I actually had to get off after 4 stops. I literally couldn't see. My eyesight had gone. I was so faint from apparently a tremendous infection in my lungs.
Mm.
But I mean, it's a little stuff. It's not that important. Konya was okay. It was cheap. Maybe 1/3 the price of 1/3 the price of my current apartment in Istanbul.
Okay, how much was 1/3?
It was supposed to be 4, but Kim got it for 375, and that was through 3 of us. I mean, I was paying 150 lira.
I remember Ankara. I found a old caretaker's apartment in like the bottom of a building for 350 in like the best district of Ankara.
Yeah.
So definitely not like Istanbul. But that said, I ended up going without heat or natural gas for 6 months.
Yeah, it's funny how the best areas of a city in Turkey often end up being the areas with the oldest and worst buildings. But I guess it's the same way like I don't know if it's like that in New York, but in San Francisco all the buildings are really old, even if they're in nice areas.
Exactly. You wake up, you see something running across the floor, it's a cockroach the size of your arm, and it's like, Merhaba. Anyways.
Yeah, actually, that's right. I did have a really bad problem in Zeytinburnu. Zeytinburnu is a conservative district of Istanbul. It's the first place I lived when I came.
Okay.
And the reason I liked it is actually it reminded me of Konya. And after living in Palestine and briefly in Jordan and then in Konya, and to be honest, still to this day, I'm not that comfortable in the foreign dominated areas of Istanbul, which I'm going to school, actually. So this is where we are right now. We're in one of those foreign but not even foreign dominated. It's European looking.
Okay.
The people here obviously have a higher mean income.
Okay.
And usually a higher level of education on average. I mean, historically.
Speaking of course.
So what?
Historically speaking, of course.
Well, I mean, because there's a lot more universities now. These dynamics are changing. It's just historically this area has been associated with that. A lot of the consulates and these things are here. Anyway, so I was living in Zeytinburnu. Zeytinburnu was a working class area. A lot of Chechens and Russians and Iranians there, Afghani Iranians mostly, I think. I don't know how many pure Iranians were there. So a lot of working class textile workshops and sweatshops, basically, not far from where I live, just I think behind my building. But the place was good. It was on the main street. Got a good 600 lira for it. Wasn't a problem, really. Actually being a single person, particularly, I mean, if you're a single woman, it's hellish, I'm sure, trying to find a place. Melik used to tell me stories about it. But being a guy is only a little bit easier, because if there's families living in that building, they all have to ask. Your landlord's got to ask for permission before they can put a single man in there, because it just makes everybody else uncomfortable.
Exactly. It's seen as a threat.
Yeah. So, but the place was nice. The people around me were okay. I didn't really get to know them, but the neighbor next to me. So there are these interior, I don't know, what would you call it? Like just open areas in the center of these buildings.
Okay.
Kind of like for ventilation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was above a shop, I was on what in America would be the third floor, but here it's the second floor. But below us was an actual shop and the warehouse for the shop above the shop. So it was kind of a flat surface for this ventilation. I don't know, not even a duct. It's just a big square hole. It's kind of like a, I don't know, something like a square block is what the building is. Anyway, so my window went out to the ground floor of this, and that's just not the place you want to be. You never want to be ground floor anywhere in Istanbul. And even though I wasn't on the ground floor for the street, I was on the ground floor for this catch-all where everybody throws their cigarette butts out their window as they're smoking in the next 5 floors up, and they all kind of just land outside. Now, the cigarette butts, okay, not that big a deal. I'm going to die of cancer anyway, probably. But my neighbor, who was nice, and she wasn't doing this at first. Her kids weren't, someone in her family were. But at some point, my girlfriend at the time was staying over, and she hated the apartment because I started having really bad problems with bugs, and I wasn't there a whole lot. I was all over the city working at that time. But I started having really bad problems with bugs, and I never had this issue before. Yeah. I look out, Nev sees them out the window. They're just taking their garbage and just dumping it out the kitchen window in basically just right outside their window. And their window was right next to my window. So there's just it's like a compost heap right outside my kitchen. And
that's not the place you want to have one.
That's not a place you want to have a compost heap. And there was just nothing you could do. I mean, you could kill all the bugs you could find, but they're just breeding right outside. Yeah. And oh god, and it was. I'm glad I moved. Not 3-4 months after this started, so it was still pretty bad for a while. I mean, Nev refused to come by there anymore towards the end of our relationship, and I didn't like going there. I mean, it was just, so that is the worst. But to be honest, that kind of stuff happens in Florida. Florida is really moist and humid, so we got a lot of little bugs.
I remember when I first moved into my apartment, they have something called a kapagi, which is a caretaker who looks after the building. They generally have a small apartment at the bottom of the basement floor, and this guy lives there for free and cleans the buildings. I got his old apartment. It's been abandoned for about 3 months. So I walk in and I start cleaning. I leave a room and start cleaning another room, and I walk into the room I just left, and it's full of spider webs again, and there's giant spiders. So I spent about 3 days doing battle with these spiders and cobwebs constantly. The solution...
Who are you, Samwise? Gamgee? I mean, what... Did you have Sting with you?
Yes. Sting was a paint roller, and that was the only solution.
You made it. You made it sound like a back and forth battle. Were the spiders getting the upper 8 hands at some point?
It was very aggressive.
Okay, so so you cleaned them out.
I cleaned them out, and then they came back. Then I cleaned them out, and anytime I went away for an extended period of like 3 days, I'd come back and have to reclaim my territory of, hey, this is my house, get out.
This is my part of the house, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you guys have that room. It's a 2-bedroom. Stick to your room. Common areas, leave them clean.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the worst?
Speaking of bugs in common areas, let's talk about roommates then.
Okay.
For example, you have your rooms, you have the common room, keep it clean. Do you have any roommate stories for us? About people you wouldn't necessarily live with, but...
No, in America I had more roommates here. Here in Konya, like I said, I just kept it myself. I avoided this. I mean, I like Görkem, but I avoided everybody else, really. Now, towards the end, they had some problems. I remember, I think, we were talking about this the other day. There's this tendency that the apartment is very communal at the university level. When guys go to town, they'll tell their friends, "Oh, if you need a place to stay during the holiday, just crash at my place." Yeah. I remember I planned to have a week holiday, basically to myself alone, because everyone goes back to their family.
Foreigners were all left alone.
Yeah. The holidays are like the worst time for foreigners if you're not leaving the country. And I mean, hell, I think there was one day I couldn't find food in Konya because there was no place open and I had no kitchen. I survived off of potato chips that day.
I've done that.
So, what was I going to say? Towards the
end of the relationship or the...
Yeah, they had a falling out. They had a falling out. Yeah, I just had that one issue where, I was expecting to have the apartment to myself, and then I come out and I see people in the main room with their their sleeping bags, and I'm like, yeah, guys, hey, Oppo, what's up? It's like nothing. Oh, it's okay. I'm like, Ahmed, said I could stay here. I'm like, oh, did he? Did he?
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
And apparently, Gurkin claimed he didn't know anything about it. I don't know. There might be some, selective recall at that point.
Exactly.
But anyway, that was annoying to me. And I
Well-
think at that point I said, these are the best roommates I could possibly have, and I've had enough of them.
Yeah.
So I was definitely looking forward to when our time was up.
I remember one time in Ankara, I came back home and I found 15 random people sitting in my living room, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Who are you? Why are you here? Apparently, my temporary roommate, well, he stayed 3 days of a week with me, decided to have a gathering. But the thing is, he does not inform about the gatherings.
Well, he obviously did inform. He informed a lot of people.
He never informed me.
Everybody knew, man.
But no, I mean, for example, in North America, if you have a friend over, you generally let your roommate know beforehand that, hey, I'm going to have a couple guys over, or I'm going to have one person over. That's fine.
Do you know that to be true? Have you ever done that in North America?
Yeah.
The guy who's lived here the last 7 or 8 years.
No, I mean, it's generally it's generally done. For example, even as a child, if I want to have a friend stay over at my house, I have to tell my parents first, and they say yes or no.
Yeah, but that's with your parents, yeah.
But in Turkey, it's like, oh, Mom, my friend's staying over tonight, bye-bye kind of situation. They don't have the concept of giving news or sharing news. There's no obligation to do that.
I like how you just made that like a general fact about 73 million people who live here.
That I've noticed.
Yeah, okay. Anything else? Now,
Okay,
you have a roommate now, right?
Yeah, no, I have a roommate.
Yeah, how is that? How's that situation? How's that relationship?
Rocky. It's okay. I mean, I've had worse roommates before.
Yeah, is she listening?
I don't know.
Is she the kind of person who would listen?
I hope not.
Well, why? You guys have been living together how long? Over a year now, right?
A year now, yeah.
Yeah, over a year.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in March, dude.
Yeah. How time flies very, very quickly. Naysay. Anyways, things with roommates is they generally give you little signs about how well your relationship is going.
Yeah.
For example, if you walk into the washroom and always find it is out of toilet paper, generally your relationship with your roommate is not going well.
I mean, because you think it's intentional? You think she puts a little piece in the toilet and then flushes it and just pulls it down that way? You think it's...
Well, no, I mean, I see something like that, I replace it automatically.
Yeah.
Or, for example, other roommates, there's little signs that it's, okay, not working, it's time to get out.
Yeah.
For example,
you feel like you've got this sign now? Is that what you just basically said?
No, I'm not talking about my current living situation. Like, I remember one time in Ankara, I came back from a business trip. I got to my home, and my bags were sitting on my bed, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting a feeling that I got to leave now.
Now, I want to take the last couple moments that we have this evening, and thanks for listening. Thanks for those who stuck with us for the 2-hour marathon. God, I would love to do this every week, but it's just not.
It would be intriguing.
Yeah,
it would be
not
nice.
Possible. Just not possible. So you have a roommate who is
hinting at you to leave.
Well, shortchanging you on the toilet paper. Not even 2 strips. I mean, 2 strips is like the bare minimum, right? You can do that survival technique, wrapping it around your finger and these things, which you explained before. We don't need to go into it on the radio. Is actually Carl Pilkington. He had a nice little talk about this thing, so you weren't the only one to say it. But what amazed me, and I've only met her twice. She seemed nice enough, but I've never spoken to her in the last year. But what amazed me about this story, if it was a guy, I could say, yeah, okay, it's plausible that, use the last bit up and, guys are guys. Doesn't use it all the time. But you're living with a woman, and the women I know, they need tissue every time they go to the bathroom.
Yes, no, that is standard equipment.
Standard. I mean, it comes in uniform size and metrics, yeah. And so either, I just don't know how she must have. I don't know how she does it. How does she not
keep it in
realize?
the purse?
She must have her own secret stash, her own secret supply. Dude, you got to keep toilet paper in your pockets. Just wad it up. I mean, put it down your pants. Make yourself look bigger, and it'll always be there when you need it. Might help you with the ladies too.
There's no need to distract from natural size. Anyways, moving on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were talking about that yesterday too. Unsolicited reference to his penis yesterday. Yeah, on the street in Fulia.